going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Dan, Kevin, Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, fellas?
What is going on, fellas? What's going on, world?
What's up, everybody? What's going on?
All right, so today we are, as you can see, doing a little video podcast for you. That will hit our YouTube channel, and today we're going to get into a little breakdown of these Sunday games. This is going to be pretty much our routine on Fridays. We'll go recap the Thursday night game, and then we'll go over the Friday games. But first, don't forget to check us out on our website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thnинchesff.com for a bunch of content. You got articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our VIP content. This will give you access to DFS info and still give you access to our cheat codes, which we'll be keeping updated monthly. So that you can see what's going on with the offenses around the league. So check those out, and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing start-sit questions throughout the year. So check us out on there as well. And if you're listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. So with that being said, let's get into the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, now we're going to get into the news and welcome in our YouTube audience. What's going on, YouTube? So, here is the news for the week. We have a bunch of it. So, there is a very long list. The list is going to start off with Dallas Goedert returned to practice on Wednesday. That is, I guess, good news for the Eagles. Not really too fantasy relevant right now. Kyle Shanahan said wide receiver Jalen Hurd is week to week. DK Metcalf is practicing on Wednesday. That's a big deal. The Dolphins coach Brian Flores says Kenyon Drake will get a lot of touches in week 1. That is something that we definitely need to talk about. Coach Doug Peterson told reporters Wednesday that the Eagles will continue to utilize a committee system and at running back. Coach Anthony Lynn said that he plans to continue utilizing multiple running backs ahead of the Chargers' Week 1 matchup against the Colts. Adam Schefter has reported that the Rams reached an agreement with tight end Tyler Higbee on a 4-year deal that ties him to the team through 2023. Coach Adam Gase told reporters Thursday that Robbie Anderson looks good and is ready to roll for the Jets Week 1 against the Bills. Coach Bill O'Brien told reporters Thursday that Frank Gore Coach and Bills OC Brian Daboll told reporters Thursday that each of Frank Gore, Devin Singletary, and TJ Yeldon will have a role in the offense this season. Ravens OC Greg Roman told reporters Thursday that while Mark Ingram is the team's starting running back, everybody is going to contribute. That's another piece of news we need to talk about. Adam Schefter has reported that the Raiders are planning to suspend Antonio Brown. So we're just going to wrap up the Antonio Brown news all basically at one here. So yesterday you guys heard that Antonio Brown was going to be suspended. Then everybody went to try to probably trade for him because none of us believe that shit. And then it basically has gotten to the point where this morning Antonio Brown came to the team, with all of the co-captains of the team, stood in front of the team and apologized for everything he had done. We're not going to get all crazy into what happened. You know what I mean? You've heard it in every news outlet. So, we're just bringing you the news. We're not going to go over exactly everything that happened. So yesterday, it looked like Antonio Brown might be cut. Today, he's going to play on Monday. That's basically what we're hearing.
Quite a little turn of events.
Exactly. A crazy 24 hours for Antonio Brown. Jordan Reed took part in Thursday's practice, which is a big deal if you are desperate at tight end, need one. Stephon Diggs returned to Vikings practice on Thursday. Thank God. I actually started reading after we did the podcast the other day, guys. I started reading. I started seeing it was a hamstring. I was like, oh man, are you serious? I have so much Diggs, it's stupid. Let's see here. That's Antonio Brown. Odell Beckham hasn't opened up yet while running. Updated earlier, Jordan Reed remains in the concussion protocol. So I guess he hasn't been cleared, but he is out there doing things. Speaking Thursday, Redskins coach Jay Gruden confirmed Darius Geis will be the team's starting running back against the Eagles and hinted Adrian Peterson could be a healthy scratch. That's definitely something that's noteworthy. The 49ers DC Robert Slay, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, expects defensive end Nick Bosa to suit up for week 1 against the Buccaneers. Julio Jones said he doesn't know if he'll be ready for the Vikings in week 1. Speaking Thursday, Rams coach Sean McVay told Todd Gurley will not be on a snap count against the Panthers. Alshon Jeffrey had a bicep injury that he has been cleared from, so he will be out there in week 1. DK Metcalf has proclaimed himself 100% healthy. If you believe anything a player...
Call himself Wolverine.
Yeah, right? If you believe anything a player tells you, then I'm going to let you know, don't. Because players mean absolutely nothing when they tell you they're 100% healthy. Normally, they tell you that, and then they're a scratch at the end of the week. So just listen to what reports say. The Falcons officially attributed Julio Jones' limited Thursday practice to rest. Trey Burton is inactive for the Bears in week 1. We know that. We're going to skip over anything that happened yesterday. Dante Pettis was upgraded to full participant in Thursday's practice. Ian Rappaport reports. We're going to skip that. DK Metcalf. All right, so we're going to talk about the game last night, so we're going to skip any news about the game. And there's a whole bunch of news about the game. Let's see here. We have... Speaking of NFL Thursday night, David Carr said Raiders captains told John Gruden they're fine with whatever the organization decides to do. I mean, basically, Antonio Brown is playing from what that was told. The big news on NFL today was the Chiefs signed wide receiver Tyreek Hill to a 3-year, $54 million extension. That's a good sign. Mike Evans didn't practice on Friday. According to Josina Anderson. Nope, not reading that. Let's see here. Odell Beckham was a full participant again on Friday. Cam Robinson did not practice on Friday. That is a big deal. He is the left tackle for the Jaguars, and they need him desperately. More Jordan news. Jordan Reed.
I think you skipped over one.
Go ahead, read it.
Texans coach Bill O'Brien says they will have to see how it goes on Monday in regards to Kiki QT's availability for week 1.
Yeah, Kiki QT has a good matchup this week too, so definitely if you have him, I mean, make sure you're paying attention to that. ESPN's Rich Cimini projects Le'Veon Bell for 15 to 20 touches week 1 against the Bills. 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa is listed as questionable for week 1 against the Bucs. They've basically been saying that he's good to go. Robbie Anderson is listed as questionable for week 1 against the Bills, and they have also said he is good to go. And that is the news.
All right. So anything in there we want to touch on?
Definitely. We got to hit on the guy stuff. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Kev. I mean,
yeah, I think this is great news for Darius Geis owners. As one myself, I was a little worried about how this was going to play out, if it was going to be kind of a 3-back committee there with AP cutting into his workload, Chris Thompson getting a little bit of the passing work. But Jay Gruden said, he sees him as a first, second, and maybe even a third down running back as well. So I'm very interested to see how they use him against the Eagles. In leagues where, I mean, you probably, if you drafted him at his ADP, you probably have better options to start. And I would probably wait because the Eagles do have a good run defense. They have very good defensive tackles. They are a little bit lacking at the linebacker position, but I really am curious to see Darius Geis this week because I think the dude is super talented and he is a beast with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I think this week for Geis is probably going to be kind of like last night with Aaron Jones, where it's going to be a little tough, rough sledding for him because that Eagles front is really nasty. Not quite as good as the Bears, I don't think. The Bears is probably the top in the league, but that Eagles front is really nasty. So I think Washington's going to be in a lot of third and longs, and you're probably going to see Thompson on the field quite a bit during those third and longs. But I mean, yeah, if AP really is, I mean, that's the next thing I guess we're going to transition into. If AP is a healthy scratch, then guys will be at least be out there. So whether or not he can, find holes, it remains to be seen. But that would be, if you are a Geis owner, I mean, if AP's a healthy scratch tomorrow, even with that Eagles front being really good, he's almost a must start if AP's not playing, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. For me, Darius Geis, I said it last year when we were doing the podcast, me and Kev. He was my second favorite running back coming out of college. Other than obviously Saquon is an animal, but I really liked Geis. If you guys remember, I don't know how many of you guys watch college football, but that's what you have us for. When you watched them together at LSU, him and Leonard Fournette, he was getting run a lot more than Leonard Fournette in a lot of games. It wasn't like Leonard Fournette was the lead back and Darius Geis was nothing. I mean, Darius Geis was getting the ball a whole lot, and in a lot of games he was out touching Leonard Fournette, and Leonard Fournette was the number 4 overall pick. So, Geis has a lot of talent, is a very good running back, and the only issue I have with him is that offensive line is not good, and without Williams, that really hurts them. That really hurts them. So hopefully he comes back with the team. I'm not a big Redskins fan per se, but for fantasy purposes, we definitely want him back in the fold of that Redskins team. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that, I think is relevant. Kenyon Drake's going to get a lot of touches. So for me, Kenyon Drake, I already thought was going to get a lot of touches because I think this is a game where the Ravens are going to jump out to a lead and the, Dolphins are going to be trying to come back in this game, which, to me favors Drake because he is a much better pass catcher out of the back than Kalen Ballage. So Drake is a guy that I really like this week. I think he is, I could definitely see him doing something like Tyreek Cohen did last night, 8-10 catches in this game. Hopefully he has more yards than 49. If he gets, let's say, 12 to 15 carries and then another 8 to 10 catches in this game just because of the way the game flow goes and they have to be throwing, I think Drake could definitely contribute to your fantasy team, definitely in a PPR setting, and a guy that I definitely want in my lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a tough matchup. Because like I said, the Ravens always seem to put out a good defense. They lost a lot of pieces this year, with C.J. Mosley, Terrell Suggs. So it'll be interesting to see how the Baltimore defense adapts to those losses. But I think Kenyon Drake. I mean, we've been saying this for a couple of years now about Kenyon Drake. Dude's ultra talented. He's got plenty of ability. I mean, the thing is, his coaches just don't ever give him the ball. So hopefully Brian Flores is a little bit smarter than Adam Gase and decides he wants to take advantage of Kenyon Drake's skill set, and that could really pay off for fantasy owners because he was like a 6th, 7th round pick. And last year he finished as running back 14 in PPR for a full season. So, could be interesting to see him this year if he's going to be getting the bulk of the workload there.
I think anybody's a upgrade from Googly Eye Gase. So, I mean, if they're already saying that he's going to get, the season hasn't even started and they're already going to, talking about his workload is going to be pretty large, then yeah, I mean, if you got Drake and you've been on the bubble about starting him or not because you got other guys, and give him a shot. I think he's going to end up having a good week. I think he's going to have a good season because he is a great pass catcher, and if you're in a PPR league, you love them running backs when they're good pass catchers.
Coach Doug Peterson told reporters Wednesday that the Eagles will continue to utilize a committee system at running back. So this is the thing I will say about that. He said the same thing last year, and before Jay Ajayi went down, it was clear and evident that Jay Ajayi was the clear number 1 back on that team. So I think you have to take that with a grain of salt. I definitely do think that they are going to use all three backs. You know what I mean? I think Howard will be used. I think Miles Sanders will be used. And I also think that Darren Sproles will be used, sprinkled in. But I think sooner than later, you're going to see Miles Sanders take the lead role in this backfield and maybe not be a 20-touch guy, but definitely, like I've been saying, 16 to 18 touches, not something I think is crazy for, a running back in a good offense.
Yeah, the one thing that Doug Peterson will do is he doesn't when he game plans, he doesn't really devise any kind of specific strategy. He just kind of goes with the flow of the game. I mean, if the run's working, he'll stick with the run. If the pass is working, he'll stick with the pass. And he sticks with the hot hand too. So I mean, he's definitely not locked into any one guy, and he's not locked into any one scheme. So that's why they won a Super Bowl a couple years ago with a bunch of guys that really, Nick Foles and stuff had no reason to win it, but it was his coaching. His coaching was brilliant 2 years ago. So I mean, if he, I think like you've been preaching, Steve, if Miles Sanders shows this ability that we know that he has, then he's going to warrant the majority of the touches.
Yeah, this is pretty much what I expected. If this is how it's going to go, I thought I can see Jordan Howard being more of a short guy, kind of inside the 30s, and this Miles Sanders, Darren Sproles kind of sprinkled in through, 30 to 30. Or 20 to 20, whatever you want to say. But, I definitely think when it comes to the red zone, Jordan Howard has showed that he's one of the best short yardage backs in the NFL over the past few years. So I definitely think when it comes to goal line, you're going to see him in there. And, Jordan Howard to me is kind of an interesting guy that people were drafting because he was going in like the 8th round and nobody was excited about him. But in my mind, Jordan Howard was pretty much a capable touchdown every week because this offense is going to be that dynamic. So, with that being said, I definitely think Sanders is the most talented back. But we got to see what the Eagles do because the last couple of years it's been all committee. All right. I want to go and interrupt. We've been telling you for 2 months now that Todd Gurley was going to get all the work, and we just reported they basically said he's not even on a snap count. He's not on a pitch count. He's going to be the workhorse running back for the Rams. We've been telling you this for a while. It's arthritis. It's a pain tolerance thing. It's not oh my God, he can tear his ACL at any given moment. No, it's not one of those kind of injuries. It's, very similar to Sony Michel. Sony Michel has the same problem. It's an arthritis thing in his knee. And if he can deal with the pain, he's going to be out there because he's one of the best running backs in the league. So, everybody who is, I'm not going to near Todd Gurley, I'm staying away, 3rd round, 4th round for Todd Gurley, you guys were completely wrong because this guy's going to be a top 5 running back this year.
Yeah, and all those people that drafted Henderson in the 7th or 8th round are going to be a little bit upset with themselves when Henderson's only getting 5 carries and Gurley's getting 25 touches. It's Todd Gurley. The guy is he's just way too good to keep off the field. I mean, you'll give him his breather. I mean, the Rams are still going to be a dominant offense when they get up on teams. Then you bring in the Malcolm and Henderson and let them get a little bit of their work and let Todd get his his breaths and obviously I think the reason that they mentioned all this is because they saw that they overworked them for the first 10 games last year, and I don't think they want to do that again. So I think they're just trying to reassure their fans that they're not going to just run them into the ground like they did the last 2 years. But he's also Todd Gurley. I mean, he's gonna get the workload. It's inevitable.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to rub it in and say I told you guys so. I'm just going to say that
I felt like I should make sure we did that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I am going to say that it is a situation where I felt that Todd Gurley, is one of the best running backs in the league, and I'm not going to let him fall out of the first round in any of my drafts, and I didn't. If you watched any draft that I was in, where I was picking, unless I saw somebody that I really loved in front of Todd Gurley, I picked him because I refuse to let him go out of the first round. I just think he's a first-round talent, and, it sounds like he's going to 100% prove me right. So that's basically it for me, guys. If you have anything else you want to talk about in the news, we can do that.
Nah, I was already thinking we gotta get into these games.
Yeah.
And anything from the news that we see during these games, we can just kind of sprinkle in.
Yep.
So, all right.
How about that? How about that game last night?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
get
man.
into this game last night. It was interesting to say the least. Very poor start to the season. At least in my opinion, it was a defensive battle, but to me, it was more about bad offense on one side than it was good defense. The Bears' offense Mitch Trubisky looked terrible. He looked terrible. He was missing a ton of receivers. He was holding on to the ball a little too long. It made the Packers' defense look a lot better than what it really should be. But yeah, that's kind of where I want to start is, Mitch Trubisky was a guy that was expected to possibly turn a corner this year, and judging from week 1, that did not happen.
Yeah, no. Just watching that game, even that end zone throw at the end of the game, that he tried to throw up to Allen Robinson, he really didn't even give him a chance. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, I don't know. It just was an ugly bad interception. And then at the end of the game, to take a sack on fourth down, he did that repeatedly. He did that twice where he took sacks on fourth down. That's just not something a heads-up quarterback is going to do in the NFL. A guy that knows what he's doing is not going to take a sack on fourth down. He's going to at least try to give one of his receivers a chance. Like, if you're rushed immediately, like literally, hike, and then a dude is on your neck, that's something completely different. He had plenty of time on both of those plays where on fourth down where he could have done something and literally just got sacked because he took too long trying to find someone. Like, throw it up to whoever it is. Give them a chance to catch the ball. It's fourth down. You're about to lose the game. Just do what you got to do. Mr. Trubisky looked completely lost yesterday. He made a couple of good throws to Allen Robinson and to what's his name? Tyler Gabriel on the sideline. But other than that, Tariq Cohen, I basically was telling you guys, is a guy that I like this year because, I know they're saying they're going to bring his workload down, but he's just too dynamic with the ball in his hands. They're going to have to keep feeding him. He had 8 catches for 49 yards last night. Allen Robinson is a guy that I wrote did I write an article or a blog about him? I think I wrote an article. Yeah, I wrote an article about him. Somebody that I was very high on this year, just looking at what I thought to be was a guy who was getting ready to, I don't want to say break out because he already had his breakout season, but a guy
bounce back.
Yeah, bounce back. A guy that I thought was going to bounce back heavy this year, and so far so good. 13 targets, 7 receptions, 102 yards. He looked spry. He looked like he was winning 50-50 balls. He looked like he was the go-to number 1 receiver for the Chicago Bears. And I said it, in the article that Mitch Trubisky is going to be the only reason that he fails or, succeeds. And Mitch has to show more than he showed last night because that was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both touched on Mitch. I'll touch on the other guy that deserves a monster amount of blame, and that's Matt Nagy. He called a terrible game. I mean, the few times that they actually had any kind of consistency, he didn't stick with. He didn't stick with any kind of game plan. He was all over the place. He was putting guys in wrong positions. And I mean, I had Montgomery, and I wanted to see what this kid was going to be made of. And obviously, Steve was high on him on last night's game. You said a lot of times, showing off his new toy, and he played Mike Davis a lot, and Mike Davis had stats because he was out there for 60% of the snaps. So, I mean, the plays that Montgomery was out there for. He showed that he does have an ability. He had a nice, that nice 27-yard catch. He actually, I replayed that. He actually could have, if Trubisky would have led him instead of throwing it back shoulder to him when he was wide open, then he may have made a cut or two and taken that one to the house. But it was a very frustrating game to watch. If you were like me and excited to see Montgomery and see what kind of opening game he was going to have, and I can't imagine how frustrated Montgomery was. Just when he was out there, he was producing at times, and most of the time he was just standing there next to one of the guys on the sideline. I don't know what was going on through Nagy's head in that game what his plan was to try to get any kind of consistency out of Montgomery, but he shit the bed on that one.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Nagy too, because I thought his play calling was terrible. He abandoned the run, and we were texting each other last night in the game, and we were all talking about that. Like, he stopped running the ball in the second half, and it was only a 4-point game. He got a little Andy Reid syndrome, which is which Steve said. It's he just forgot that you're probably two of your three best players are in your backfield, and handing them the ball off is probably a good way to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off Mitch. Mitch didn't even average 10 yards of completion, and that was with Allen Robinson having a really good day. I got to give you credit on that one, Steve. That was a good call. Allen Robinson looked really good to me last night. For as bad as Mitch played, for him to have 8 catches, 102 yards, to me that really shows that, he could really have, a pretty good season. And, because those games where Mitch does happen to go off, who knows what he could do. So, it should be interesting to see this year.
Yeah, this game had 19 punts. It had 17 punts and 2 turnovers on downs, both by Chicago. It was just one of those things where it was just bad. It was bad on both. The Bears defense looked amazing, and the Green Bay Packers offense looked, I don't want to say they looked bad, but the D was really good last night. And then on the other side of the ball, the Bears offense was bad, and the Packers did what they needed to do. But nobody could cover Allen Robinson. It was evident and clear. To me, these cornerbacks are going to be in trouble against number 1 wide receivers if they made Allen Robinson look the way he looked. And I think Allen Robinson is a very good player, so I'm not taking anything away from Allen Robinson. But, these cornerbacks are on the Green Bay Packers are suspect at best. The defensive line for them looked good. Martinez had a good game last night, in the linebacking core. So I think the linebackers look good. The defensive line looks good, but that secondary is suspect as hell. So let's go into the next game, boys.
All right. Well, let's touch on a little bit of the Green Bay offense. Let's not get too in depth. We got really in depth with the Bears situation. So let's kind of take it easy with that. To me, Aaron Jones, I mean, this could be a product of a good defense. 3 yards per carry. I saw a little bit more of Jamal Williams than I wanted to. He got 5 carries for 0 yards, which shows that Jamal Williams is not somebody that is really a very good football player, and that Aaron Jones should have that full workload there. But yeah, what else did you guys see from that?
I saw a lot of guys cramping last night. I don't know what the humidity was or the the heat.
It was hot. It was hot there from what they were saying.
Yeah,
it was real hot there.
Guys were cramping up, and to me, I thought I saw Aaron Jones come off the field a couple of times. Looked like he was trying to stretch something out. The one play he got tackled, he was, looked like he was trying to stretch his calf out. He was, in pain on the sideline. So I think it was more having to do with, because he had the entire first quarter. He didn't come off the field in the first quarter, which they didn't have the ball all that much in the first quarter, but he was on the field basically the entire first quarter and more than half of the second quarter. So I wasn't, that made me, happy to see that they were using him as much as they were. This Bears defense is no joke. So, I don't think that the Bears will finish number 1 because it's just really hard to repeat number 1. They're not going to score as many touchdowns as they did last year. Those numbers are just really hard to repeat, but this is a really good defense. It's not a joke defense. Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers. He made some throws. He, was pressured a whole lot. The Green Bay Packers offensive tackles are great, and their guards are terrible. Their center is not bad, but most of the sacks that you saw came from the A-gaps, and that is, center guard issues, and you're going to see that all season long if that's the way they're going to play. And they're not going to play against defenses like the Bears every week, but you're going to see Aaron Rodgers take his fair share of sacks if that's the way the interior of that line is going to play. MVS is the clear number 2 wide receiver to me. After watching last night's game, he came off with a couple of cramping issues also. But to me, clear number 2 guy is MVS. Geronimo Allison had a terrible time getting open last night. I watched the game replay again today. He was just not getting open last night, and A-Rod wasn't looking for him because he couldn't get open. The touchdown to Jimmy Graham was actually, if you watch the play, he was actually pointing to Geronimo Allison, trying to get him to come over to the right, as to cut through the middle of the field, and saw that Jimmy Graham was there and just decided to throw it up and hope that Jimmy came down with it, and that's what happened. Jimmy Graham looked good last night, and that's basically all I have for the Packers.
He looks slow.
Yes, very slow.
He looks slow. Yeah,
he did. Yeah, he looked slow, but I mean, yeah, I think him and Rodgers could have an average season. I mean, everyone wrote him off this year. I'm not expecting him to finish in the top 12 by any means, but I think if he finishes in number 15 or so, it's not bad for a guy that's definitely a little aged. Yeah, Adams had a hard time getting open. Geronimo didn't get open. He just flat out did not get open at all. But Adams had a hard time getting open, and MVS was definitely the guy that was trying to, that was clearly making the most plays for Rodgers. Jones, looked like he was going a little bit there in the end, but besides that, even the average 3 yards per carry, I think was pretty decent considering the way he was starting. I mean, it looked like for the first half of the football game, he was in the backfield every play. And then the other thing I'll take away from that is Mac didn't have a huge game because he the interior of Green Bay fell apart, like you said, Steve. I mean, they crushed right up the middle every time. They were in his face, so he didn't have to. All he had to do was just play his role and put pressure on the outside, and the inside guys were coming down with the sacks. But all around, yeah, not the most exciting game for the first game of the season to end last year's Super Bowl.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
watch the game, like if you guys watch the replay of the game, the one thing I do want to say real quick is if defenses are going to do the same thing that the Bears did last night, if you watched what the Bears were doing last night, they were using Khalil Mack and bringing him out wide, like really wide, to make Bakhtiari come out and get him, and then they were just rushing the middle. Like if that's the way defenses are going to attack this offense this year, Aaron Rodgers could have some issues.
Yeah, I'll say that MVS, to me, there was a little bit of back and forth. Which one of those other Green Bay receivers did you really want? MVS started to creep his way up, but he was down in the double-digit rounds. He got his way up to like round 9. Geronimo was in like round 8, and I think MVS clearly won out because he clearly looked like the number 2 yesterday. So let's move on to the games we got coming up on Sunday. We will start off with the Bills and Jets game. So what about this game do you guys like?
I am going to be very quick. I like Josh Allen. Josh Allen played well against the Jets last year. I don't think the Jets defense got all that much better than they were last year. I think Josh Allen is going to be a mid-tier quarterback too, and probably around anywhere from 12 to 18, somewhere in there. So if you need him to start this week because you have, somebody you're worried about, I wouldn't be too worried about him. I think he'll put up some points. The Bills running game, you can't start any of them because you don't know what's going on back there. The Bills passing offense, the only guy that I would even consider starting is Zay Jones in this game. And I'm basically going to leave it at that with the Bills. Obviously, you're starting the Bills defense against the Jets. On the Jets side of the ball, I am probably staying away from most of everybody. You're definitely playing Le'Veon Bell if you drafted him. You're never going to sit him. Jamison Crowder has one of the tougher slot corner matchups. Teron Johnson is a very good slot corner, and I would not start Jamison Crowder this week and feel confident about it. Robbie Anderson is going to see a whole lot of Latavius White. That's not doing that at all. If I have a better option than Robbie Anderson, I am going to pick that better option. And the Jets defense, could have a game, some sacks and things like that. So not a defense that I'm scared of playing either. So that's what I got in this game.
Yeah, to me, the only player in this game that you're starting is Le'Veon Bell. End of story.
Yep. Ditto.
All right, so we will move on to the Eagles-Redskins matchup. Dan, why don't you start off and take this one?
All right, as far as I'll start with the Eagles, our team. You're obviously starting Carson Wentz and Ertz and uh, possibly Deshaun in a flex. He has had a very good track record against Washington over the years. So if you're looking for a flex guy, and it's just he's going to be, it's more so the energy that's going to be in the link. His first game back, he's going to be really ready to go. So I mean, if we always talk about Deshaun being an all or nothing type guy, and if he, I think this is going to be a game that he could break 100 yards on with a big with a big catch, couple. He's been really, from what he said, he's a better route runner now by far than he was previously, and he was never a bad route runner, but he's just so explosive, taking the roof off that he never was looked at as being a route runner, but he's always been a good route runner. He's always had really good hands. So if he's saying that he's better now than he's been, then Deshaun could be a sleeper for people. He could put up some numbers, and you probably got him, 9-10 round. As far as what obviously Miles Sanders is the news about the committee might scare a lot of people, but just still, to me, I would still start him in a flex. I think I don't probably start him in a flex, and I would probably start Jordan Howard in a flex. I think they're both going to see equal amount of work. Alshon, you're gonna probably start Alshon as well. It's just the Eagles' offense is just stacked. I mean, they really are. So it's tough to sit these guys when potentially they could throw up 30, 40 points in this game without a question. Washington, we touched on Geis, so he's definitely going to be someone you want to start. Jordan Reed, I would start, especially with the news about him being healthy, and not to mention that Washington, he's always, just like Deshaun's had a good track record against Washington, Jordan Reed has had a good track record against the Eagles. He's always seems to burn them. He's hard to, he's been been hard to stay healthy for him, but he's definitely when he's out there, he's productive. Other than that, not a lot of other guys I can really think of. Maybe the Eagles defense against Washington, probably going to get a couple sacks, maybe a turnover or two. But I don't know if you guys have anybody else you could think of fantasy related for those teams.
For me, I would not be scared of starting Miles Sanders. This game is a 10-point spread in Vegas, and 10-point spread games, you normally get to see the number 2 back, and right now he is the number 2 back, on the depth chart. So, I could definitely see if they get up in this game, Miles Sanders being used a lot, so not a guy that I'm scared to use. I basically like any of the Eagles. For me, it's if you got them, start them. Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz is a no-brainer. Carson Wentz, obviously you're starting. You're starting Deshaun Jackson if you need a wide receiver 3 or a flex option that you're starting them. So for me, all your Eagles are a giddy up and go, and your Redskins are a wait and see, because I know Darius Geis is being told that he's we're all being told that he's going to be the guy. The Eagles defense is a very good run stopping defense, so if they use Darius Geis in the passing game a whole lot in this game, I think we can all systems go. But for me, I want to see it first. If I have a better option than Geis, I am going to use that better option. If I don't, I'm not terrified of it, but I just don't know how good he will be in this game. And then, concussion protocol all week until even today, Reed makes me nervous. So there's not really any Redskin that I'm willing to start in this game. And Eagles defense on a 10-point spread game is definitely a defense you want to start.
Yeah, to me, the Eagles defense is one of the best streaming options this week. Also, you're starting Wentz, you're starting Ertz. To me, Alshon is a good, solid flex. Deshaun Jackson, you probably drafted a lot of guys higher, so you probably have better flex options. But if you don't, if maybe somebody you drafted, maybe a Stephon Diggs winds up, not playing or something, and you need to squeeze Deshaun in there, that's not a bad play. As far as the running backs, I think same as Dan. I think you can probably start Sanders or Jordan Howard. In my opinion, I think Jordan Howard definitely gets a touchdown in this game. And as far as the Redskins, I agree with you, Steve. I'm not starting anyone. Darius Geis is on a wait and see. Chris Thompson actually may not be a bad play, but he was also a guy that you probably have so many more options that are better than him. But he could see a lot of work in this game if the Eagles get up, because he's a very good passing downs back. He just gets hurt very quickly. So, he's a guy that's very productive while he's on the field.
Yeah, real quick, Deshaun Jackson does have Quentin Dunbar as the corner that's going to be in the slot with it, or just covering him in this game. I think they could be moving Deshaun Jackson, so I think that is a good call by you, Dan. If Deshaun Jackson for me is a very good flex option if you need a flex, and if you look at his track record against teams that he has played for, he blows up in those games. So definitely a guy that I'm willing to take an eye on, and put in my DFS lineup also.
All right, so let's move on to the next game. We got the Falcons and Vikings. I'll start off on this game from the Falcons side. I actually have Matt Ryan very low this week. I love the Vikings D. Matt Ryan I have at number 20. I am not excited about starting Matt Ryan this week. You're starting Julio Jones every week if you drafted him. Devontae Freeman, same thing. Although this could be a very tough matchup for Devontae, because Minnesota's got a couple of the best linebackers, maybe the best linebacking core in the NFL. From the Vikings side, or Calvin Ridley, to me, I would stay away from this week. To me, I haven't been high on Ridley all preseason, or pretty much for the whole preseason now, and he was very touchdown dependent last year, and until I see it this year, he's probably a guy you drafted to be your flex, but that's a guy I might throw like a Deshaun Jackson in there for if I have Calvin Ridley as my flex, because I just don't like the Vikings just got a very good defense. From the Vikings side, you're pretty much starting everyone, the top three guys that you drafted. You're starting Dalvin Cook, you're starting Stephon Diggs if he plays, and you're starting Adam Thielen. They're all basically number one running back, number one receiver, number two receiver guys. So those guys you got to kind of throw out there.
Yep. So for me, I know a lot of people will tell you Xavier Rhodes is a great cornerback and you're worried about Julio. I'm not. Xavier Rhodes didn't have an exceptional year last year. He gave up a lot of big plays. Maybe he has a bounce back and he's really good, but it's not a matchup that I'm worried about. Trey Waynes gave up some big plays last year. So Calvin Ridley is somebody that I'm not scared to play in this game. I agree with Kev. I like the linebackers on this team. I like the defensive line on this team. So if anything, I'm more worried about Devontae Freeman, especially because the Vikings don't give up a lot of passing yards to the running back position. So definitely a guy that I am super worried about. But Matt Ryan, if this game becomes something, of a high scoring game, which I really don't see, I think the over under is like 47. Is it 46, Dan? Something like that.
The over under this one?
Yeah.
Like 47.
Yeah, I think it's like 47.
I think it opened at 47. I don't know if it went to 46.
Yeah. So, not a super high over and under, not a super low one, just kind of like a median, over under game. So, I could see any of that. The, Minnesota Vikings side of the ball, I love Dalvin Cooks. I keep saying Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. I've been preaching this for years, and I'm going to continue to preach this. A Dan Quinn defense allows a lot of receiving yards to the running back position. They don't care about it. They are a bend, don't break defense. So Dalvin could have a lot of receiving yards in this game, a lot of receiving work in this game. Definitely a game that I love Cook in. The two, you're starting the two wide receivers, Thielen and Diggs, every single week. Kirk Cousins actually is a guy that I would start this week if you needed him. Let's say you had a tougher matchup, that you weren't too happy about. I would definitely not fear starting Cousins this week. I like him a lot. And the defense, the Minnesota Vikings defense is a week. If you drafted them, then you're starting them. It's not a matchup that I would love to start them in, but you're starting them if you got them.
Yeah, I would be 50-50 on the defense, but Like you said, I mean, you're not going to sit there and go and hit the waiver wire week 1 if you drafted Minnesota's defense, so you're definitely going to start them. The only other guy, you guys touched on all the names. The only guy that I will mention that I would not start is Austin Hooper. These linebackers for Minnesota are incredible. They're fast, and Austin Hooper I think is going to have a rough day. So I would not start Austin Hooper. More than likely, see what else is out there. There's other guys with better matchups.
If you're streaming tight end, though, I would say start Kyle Rudolph. I think Kyle Rudolph, he has a good matchup this week. He's going to be good heading up against Ricardo Allen. Ricardo Allen is not known for being a very good cover safety. So, I wouldn't mind starting Rudolph in this game.
All right, so we will get into the next game. That is the Ravens and Dolphins. So this is actually a game where we got to touch on some news that we were going to touch on and didn't. Was the Ravens committee system. Steve, why don't you get into that one?
Yeah, to me, they didn't really say it was going to be a full committee. They kind of hinted at that everybody is going to get work, which we kind of saw that in the preseason with the ones. We saw, Gus Bus get some carries. We saw, Mark Ingram get some carries, and we saw, Hill get some carries. So all three of these guys got work. Hill showed himself to be a very dynamic running back in the preseason. I think he's definitely going to get work. I've been saying that forever. I love this kid. I've drafted him in probably 85% of the leagues that I'm in. I just really like his talent, and I think he's going to be very good. So, just breaking down the touches, I do think it's going to be like a 60, 20-20. I think, I could definitely see that happening, and Mark Ingram being that 60 and the other two guys being the 20. So, I do like this backfield, though. I think they're all going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, that's kind of been one of the things that I know Dan has been a little bit shady on, was the fact they were going to use all running backs, which is why he didn't really like Mark Ingram as much as I did. I just think that Mark Ingram is better than those guys. I know you like Justice Hill, so I think Justice Hill is going to get a little bit of the passing down work. But, to me, Mark Ingram, they signed him to be the guy there. And, in that offense, they're going to be so run dominant. I think you can probably start, definitely two of these guys as while you wait and see what happens. I mean, not necessarily this week, but once you see what happens, I think you'll be able to start two of these guys, because their offenses, to me, is just going to be so run dominant. And, to me, Lamar Jackson, this is a good week to start Lamar Jackson. He's basically been the hype train has been, going on for Lamar. With him having so much rushing ability from the quarterback position and that being so good for fantasy. Week 1 against the Dolphins is definitely a good way to start that and test that out. So he's another guy you can start. And from the Dolphins side, I think the only guy you are starting is Kenyon Drake. If Kenyon Drake's getting all the touches, that's the guy you want to start. He's probably your flex if you drafted, because unless you went, 1-0 RB, he's probably your flex. Because you probably have two running backs that you drafted higher. But say Devontae Freeman, I think this week I'd rather have Kenyon Drake over Devontae Freeman. I mean, Devontae Freeman's got an extremely tough matchup. So if you're not feeling good about Freeman's matchup, you may want to start Drake. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Steve. I think I'm more probably Ingram getting 50 and then maybe Hill getting 30, but I think Gus gets, 15, 20%. But I think that number is going to slowly creep up for Hill. I think he's just too talented, and Ingram is just like I've been preaching. We don't agree on everything, and it's one of the things that we have a slight disagreement on. But as much as I do think Ingram is a good running back, I just think he's aging, and I think that Hill and even Gus is, he showed a little ability last year, but I just think Hill's going to show a lot of ability. So anyone who has him, like Kev said, he's not ready to start right now, but give it time, because this kid could be something down the road this year. And I think, as this team starts to develop a chemistry, they're definitely going to be a huge run team. They don't really have the receivers to be pass heavy. Lamar is even himself a run first quarterback. So definitely Ingram, Lamar are your guys you want to start this week for Baltimore, but there could be some other guys down the road to look into.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is my number 2 quarterback on the week and 4 point per passing touchdown, so I love him this week. Mark Ingram is my number 10, and I have Justice Hill at 38. So, to me, all three of those guys are viable flex. Hill is a viable flex, and I have Mark Ingram as an RB1 this week, along with Lamar Miller being the second best quarterback of the week. So
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, that's what I meant. Lamar Jackson being the second quarterback of the week. So for me, if you got Ravens, start him. The wide receiver that I would start in this game for the Ravens, if I absolutely had to, would probably be Miles Boykin. I think Miles is got a more of a rapport with Lamar Jackson than Hollywood Brown does. But I like this team. I think this is going to be, Mark Andrews is another guy that I'm high on this week. I just think he's going to be used. He has a nice little matchup. He's going to be up against Kareem Jackson. Kareem Jackson gave a lot of production to tight ends last year, and I think he'll do the same thing this year. So I could definitely see, Greg Roman is a very good offensive coordinator. I can see him attacking that side of the ball. On the Dolphins, I have an issue with everyone but Drake. I'm not starting anyone on this team but Drake. The Baltimore Ravens defense, I have them everywhere. That I can put them into my DFS lineups, and any of the teams that I could draft the Baltimore Ravens, I did. So, love this matchup week 1, and that's it.
All right, so let's try to speed this up a little bit. I think we're already close to an hour into podcasting, and we still got 10 games left.
Yeah.
So next one is Titans and Browns. Dan, why don't you get into this one?
As far as on the Titans go, you definitely have to. You got to start Derrick Henry for sure. Davis is a good flex option if you're a receiver. Delaney's a good tight end option in this matchup. So for Titans, that's those are the guys that I would look into. Maybe Deion Lewis as a flex option, but I don't. I think week 1 you got to really wait and see with him. I think we've been talking about how much work Derrick Henry's going to get, so definitely Derrick is probably going to be a go for this game. Who are they playing, Kev?
The Browns.
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Just like we said with the Eagles, start them all. Cleveland, start them all. You're starting Odell, you're starting Landry, you're starting Baker, you're starting Chubb. Even the tight end position, I don't know who's, if you're high on Njoku, but, he's been creeping up my tight end list a little bit over the last few weeks just because I like this offense and how much points they're going to store. And once they get into red zones, I think he's going to be seeing a lot of targets. With those two wideouts, they're going to be taking a lot of the top, the safeties help and whatnot. So I think Njoku's going to end up getting a lot of looks. So yeah, with Cleveland, you're going to be starting a lot of the guys, and you're probably going to start them every week. It's not even a matchup thing for me. They're just talented. It's a talented roster.
I think this game could be a debacle. I think this game is setting up to be a very bad game for the Titans. They are not a team that is very equipped to come back from a deficit. I think Delaney Walker is the only Titan that I want to start. And it's because they're going to have to throw the ball, and Delaney Walker is probably going to be their most productive player. Derrick Henry is going up against one of the best defensive lines in football. So, to me, with missing, Taylor Lewan, left tackle for the first 4 games of the season, and the left side of that line is banged up. I could see Henry having a really tough game. The Browns, like Dan said, start everybody. Odell Beckham is my number 1 wide receiver of the week. I think he's going to be amazing. And, if you have Landry, if you have all those guys, even Higgins, I would start Higgins in this game if I needed a flex really bad. So, yeah, just start them all. And the Browns defense is another streaming defense that if you need a defense, I really like this week.
Yep, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think if you drafted the one player I will touch on is Henry. I think if you drafted Henry where you have him, you probably have him as an RB2. Um, so I don't know if you have better options, but to me, this week I am starting Derrick Henry in one league where I have him. Um, but in that league, I'm kind of forced to. So, yeah, to me, this game could be a blowout. Cleveland is at home. There's so much hype around the team. I could see this being a game where Cleveland kind of just jumps out, and the Titans are playing catch up, and they are not like you said, Steve. They're not a team that can really do that. Let's move on to the next game. Is the Rams and Panthers. To me, let's start off with the Panthers. I actually have Cam outside my QB1s this week. I talked about that the other day on the ranking when we talked about our quarterback rankings. I think that this is just a tough matchup for him with the wide receivers he has. I think this will be more of a Christian McCaffrey type of game. To me, if I have better options, I'm not starting Samuel or DJ Moore if I have better options, because I just think that Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib are very good corners. So I don't think that, I'm not really high on either Carolina receiver. Obviously, if you have McCaffrey, you're starting him. Um, from the Rams side, you're pretty much starting everyone. I mean, you drafted all these guys and you're in the top 5 rounds. Jared Goff, I have Jared Goff as quarterback 13, so I actually do not have Goff as a QB1 this week. But if you have Jared Goff, you probably didn't draft another quarterback, so you're probably starting Goff. Every other player, Gurley, start them. And all 3 receivers are startable. So
Yeah, I agree. Rams starting them all. I think this Panthers defense is very good, better than what people expect. But I also think that the Rams are a amazing offense. So the only 2 question marks I have is the interior of that offensive line. With the left guard and center being brand new. But other than that, I think you can start all your Rams that you would normally start. Stay away from the tight ends like you always do. On the Panther side of the ball, Cam Newton always seems to play pretty well on week 1 games. I think his average is like 240 some passing yards and 2.3 touchdowns. So, he always seems to have a pretty good week 1. So I'm not really scared of Cam. Christian McCaffrey is a no-brainer start every single week. Of the 2 receivers, I think both of them could be, okay this week. I know Aqib Talib will probably be on DJ Moore a little bit more, so I'd rather have, Curtis Samuels as the guy that I'm starting, but you probably don't have both of those guys on your team. And Greg Olsen is a good option. I think the Rams are not the greatest at covering tight ends, so I could see him getting in the box this week. And, either one of these defense, I don't mind starting either one.
Yeah, I'll agree with the Rams. I won't even touch on them. You guys hit them up pretty good. For me, if you drafted Cam, you're probably not going to sit Cam. Just like you said, Kev. With Goff. If you drafted Goff, you probably didn't draft a backup. So if you drafted Cam, he's your guy. So you're going to start him. And I'm not, just like you, Steve. I'm not really worried about that. I think he'll be okay. I tend to agree more with Kev on this one. I'm scared of these corners. They're ball hawks corners. They're just. These guys, they're just good corners. So I'm going to stay away from the 2 young Panther receivers that I like a lot. But I would start Greg Olsen. I think he'd be an okay option as well. But that's about it on this team.
All right. So the next game that we have is Bengals Seahawks. I will start with the Bengals. Tyler Boyd, I like his matchup this week. Tyler Boyd is a guy that will be heavily targeted. So I definitely like Tyler. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this dude's name, but Amadi is his last name. It's like Ugo or something. Ugo Amadi. He will be the corner, that will be primarily in the slot against Tyler Boyd. And I just like Tyler Boyd in this matchup. But other than that, you got to start mixing. He's your number 1 The corners for the Bengals are not very good, so I could see the Bengals, putting up some yards in this game. But, really the only guys that I'm going to even attempt to start from the, Bengals is Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd. On the Seahawks side of the ball, Carson is a no-brainer start. He is in my top 10 at running back. I think he is like my number 6. I love him this week. I think Carson is going to go off in this game. Rashad Penny is a start for me. Russell Wilson is a start for me. Tyler Lockett is a no-brainer start for me. It's just, to me, you're starting all those guys. And even DK Metcalf, I think, could score a touchdown in this game. I just think the Bengals are that terrible on defense. And, the Seahawks aren't all that much better on defense either. So this could be a higher scoring game than I think people expect. And I'm not really scared to start too many guys in this game.
Yeah, I'll agree. I mean, you're definitely starting Lockett. You're definitely starting Carson. You're starting Russell Wilson, and all three of those guys could have really big games. The Bengals defense is they're on the lower end of the NFL link. So, and for me, I would agree with you, Steve. The only Bengals you're starting Mixon, you're starting Boyd. So, pretty much touched on that. There's not a whole lot more to really about that game.
Yeah, I think we lost Kevin.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we lost Kevin. So we will continue, and hopefully he calls back. But, yeah, so this next game, we got Colts-Chargers. For me, the Colts, I'm not really as worried about all of these guys as everybody else is, because the Chargers' offensive line is just really, really bad. And with no Melvin Gordon, I think they're going to have a tough time moving the ball. I think Eckler could be all right and all that, but the Colts' defense is legit. I think the Chargers are going to have a little bit of trouble moving the ball. I think the Colts are going to have a little bit of trouble moving the ball in this game. So, I think it could be a situation where, both these guys are having issues. Kevin is back with us. What's going on, Kev? So, yeah, to me, I'm not too worried about, T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. Hilton could have a good game. I think Marlon Mack could have a good game. Jack Doyle, I really like this week. I think, the Chargers are going to have trouble getting a hold of Jack Doyle, and Ebron could have an okay game in this game also. On the Chargers side of the ball, you're starting everybody that you normally would start. Eckler, Jackson, I could see you putting in your flex. Hunter Henry has a great matchup this week. Hunter Henry will be going up against, what is his name? Clayton Gathers. Clayton Gathers is not a very good cover safety, and I could see him having a pretty good game. And other than that, Phillip Rivers, you're starting him. Keenan Allen, you're starting him. So, it's all the normal guys. And these two defenses, I think, could both be viable.
Yeah, I think it's going to – I agree. I think it's actually going to be a lot lower scoring. People, they saw what the Colts did last year. They saw what the Chargers did, two offenses that normally tend to be pretty potent. But I think, I think they're going to slow the pace down on this one. And, yeah, I mean, just like you said, Steve, I don't even know if I have anybody to add. But, yeah, you're starting Keenan Allen, you're starting Rivers, and, yeah, Eckler. I don't know so much about Jackson. He's more of a wait-and-see guy for me. I actually have him in a couple leagues, but yeah, and then on Indy, starting Mac, Ty. I like Jack Doyle, but maybe for me, I think a couple tight ends I might like better. But if you got Jack Doyle, he's probably might be a better matchup than your other tight end. So, yep, that's for me.
Yeah, for me, obviously, you are starting Keenan Allen. You're starting, Phillip Rivers to me is outside my number ones, so I probably wouldn't start Phillip Rivers. Mike Williams, you're probably starting as a flex or a potential wide receiver 2 if you got him. To me, without Melvin Gordon in this offense, they're going to be a little bit more of an air attack. I don't like Eckler this week. I think that what was the Colts rookie linebacker that led the NFL in tackles?
Oh my God, forgot his name.
We forget his name all the time. And
I know, literally forget his name all the time.
But
great.
To me, he could kind of neutralize the run game a little bit. So I'm not really excited about starting Eckler or Justin Jackson at all. And from the Colts side, Marlon Mack, I've talked about it. I think Marlon Mack is a good start because I think that they're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to use that run game a little bit more to try and, set up, set up the pass. They're going to play it a little bit more, more of a run to set up the pass than pass to set up the run. So I do like Marlon Mack going forward. And Ty, you're probably starting him. I'm not exactly excited. I'd rather kind of take a wait and see approach on Ty. But for me, that's pretty much it. Brissett, you're not really starting. And any of them other receivers, you're not really starting either. So, to me, that's kind of where it goes, where it ends.
All right. So just to speed this up, because we're at 105, I am going to go through the games. You guys stop me if you want to talk about somebody.
Yeah.
So we got the 49ers Buccaneers in this game. Start everyone on each side of the ball. I think we can all agree. I think the running backs are, for the 49ers, you can start both Breida and Tevin Coleman. I really, really like Dante Pettis' matchup this week. Dante Pettis will be matched up against Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis is hot garbage. So Dante Pettis could have a very good game. I think Deebo Samuels is going to be used a little more than people even expect because I think he is a better receiver than, Goodwin is. So, I think Deebo could be used a little more. And George Kittle has my favorite tight end matchup of the week. He will be up against Jordan Whitehead, who didn't show that he could cover any tight end last week. To me, he has the best matchup in fantasy football for the tight end position, and George is going to go off. The Buccaneers, Mike Evans, obviously, Mike Evans has one of the best matchups, and if you go onto the website, we actually are going to have an explanation on that, talking about wide receiver cornerback matchups. So make sure you guys check that out. But Mike Evans is going to be going up against Ahkello Witherspoon, a guy that just couldn't cover anyone last year, gave up a lot of big plays, and he is going to give up some to Mike Evans. You got Godwin got a really good matchup. Just everybody on the Bucs, passing attack. O.J. Howard has a great matchup this week. He'll be faced up against Tavarius Moore, who wasn't very good last year either. It's just going to be gangbusters for the passing game. I could see this game getting over 60, in total points. So on everybody.
No Buccaneers running backs. Stay away.
Yeah, stay away from the Buccaneers running backs. Anybody else you want to hit on?
To me, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. This is a game where, I pretty much want to start as many guys as I can. I'm not 100% sold on the Buccaneers pass attack, but I do like Jimmy G this week. I have him a little higher. I have him I think 14 this week or 15, 13, somewhere around there. So, I'm a little higher on him than I am for my season rank because the Buccaneers defense is so bad. And as far as the Bucs go, I'm starting anybody in the passing game because they're going to have to throw the ball because they can't run, and the 49ers front line is going to be very good. So
definitely agree. 49ers are a streaming defense for me. The Giants and Cowboys. So in this game, I think it's all the usual suspects. There's not really anybody that I'm going to be too surprised about having a good game. This is normally a game that is, it ends 21-17, 24-20. It's not going to be a super high scoring game. It never really is. But I'm not scared to start, either of these running backs. They're no-brainers. You're starting both of them. Zeke and Barkley are just every single week. Never take them out of your lineup. The wide receivers for the Giants, Evan Ingram is going to have himself a game tomorrow. So definitely make sure you start Evan Ingram. The Giants' other receivers, Sterling Shepard, I think, could be okay. He is probably going to have some issues tomorrow. I definitely would try to start someone else if I could. But if you didn't have anybody else to start, Sterling Shepard is a good flex or, our wide receiver 3 option. And for me, that's about it for the Giants. For the Cowboys, I like, like I said, Zeke. I think Michael Gallup actually is a surprise tomorrow. I think he could have a good game. So if you need a flex, Michael Gallup, I wouldn't mind throwing in my flex. You know, Dak Prescott against the Giants, he either has good games or bad, so you got to figure out if there's going to be a good or bad game with that. And then
Cooper.
yeah,
Obviously.
Amari Cooper is, you know, you start him every week. If you drafted him, you're going to start him every week. So for me, that's about it for these two teams. Cowboys defense, another streaming.
Yeah, I actually have the Cowboys defense as the best streaming defense to grab for the first 3 weeks. I wrote an article about streaming defenses. Their first three matchups are the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Redskins. So, if you're looking for a defense to stream, definitely the Cowboys is a good one because you could probably start them for the first 3 weeks of the year very confidently. And the same thing goes for Buffalo. Buffalo was my second one, and they play two of the same teams. They play the Dolphins and Giants, and Buffalo also plays the Jets in the first 3 games. So those are both very good streaming defenses to start off with.
Yeah, you guys pretty much what got into what the only point I really wanted to make, which was the Cowboys defense is much improved last year, and I think they're going to be really good this year. And for me, the only Giants I'm really looking into, obviously Saquon and Ingram. I think Shepard for this week, I would probably hold off on. I just don't. I think they're going to have a hard time moving the ball. The Giants. I think Dallas is going to have good momentum on that defense and going to stifle them.
All right. So for the Lions and Cardinals, you're starting everyone on the Lions. Literally, I'm not kidding. Everyone. You're starting Stafford. You're starting Hawkinson. You're starting Galladay. You're starting Jones. You're starting everybody. Johnson. Everyone. Start them all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, start them all. On Arizona, I'm not scared of Kyler Murray. I don't think the Lions' pass defense is all that great. I think it's okay. Middle tier. I wouldn't mind starting Larry Fitzgerald in this game. I would stay away from Christian Kirk if you can. Christian Kirk is going to be going up against Darius Slay, who is a very good cover corner. But everybody else, I'm not really too scared of. David Johnson could have a rough go in this game. The defensive line for the Lions is very good, but he's going to be used, and you're not sitting him. So, for me, that's basically it for this game. I'm not starting either of these defenses, and that's basically the analysis for me on this game.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. To me, the Lions are everyone's startable. For me, from the Cardinals side, you're pretty much you're starting David Johnson every week if you drafted him. I want to see what this offense looks like before I throw Kirk and Fitzgerald and all those guys out there. If I was going to start one of them as a flex, I'd probably go with Fitzgerald because I just know he's consistent and familiar, so you're going to get some production. But like I said, I want to see what it has to offer before I throw any of them out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of us have, the guys in this matchup a little higher this week than we do in our normal rankings for the simple reason that we think it's going to be a high scoring game, and high score means touchdowns production. So, like you guys said, start them all. We'll evaluate some of these guys next week and see what their matchups are. But for this week, definitely expect to see some touchdowns.
Yeah, Kenny Galladay is going to be going up against Chris Jones. Chris Jones is a terrible corner. It's going to be Kenny Galladay week, and Marvin Jones, same thing. The two Arizona corners are basically guys they pulled off a scrap heap. So, start them. Steelers and Patriots. We are going to skip the Texans Saints and leave them for last, guys, because that's the game that I want to talk about with you guys. But Steelers Patriots. The Steelers, it's all the normal suspects. Moncrief is a guy that I would stay away from. Juju, you're starting. I don't really like his matchup this week. He's going to be going up against Jason McCourty, and Jason McCourty is a very good corner. And the Patriots, what they like to do is they use the way they play defense. If you watch the Patriots and you actually watch film, you will see that they put Stephon Gilmore, who is a top 3 cover corner, on basically the number 2 wide receiver, just to completely take him away. And then they doubled the number 1.
They've done that for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
They did that with Darrelle Revis back when they had him for that Super Bowl year.
Yep.
They would just use Darrelle Revis on the number 2 guy, get him shut down.
Exactly.
And then they would just bracket the number 1 guy.
Exactly. And that's what they're going to do tomorrow. So Juju, I'm a little bit worried about. But you're still starting Juju if you drafted him. You took him in, high second round, early, late first round. So you're starting him. James Conner, I think, could have a pretty good game in this game. I think they're going to use him a lot. So, James Conner, Ben Roethlisberger, all those guys, I like. On the Patriots side of the ball, I like Tom Brady this week. I think Tom Brady's going to be throwing the ball. Josh Gordon I like this week. Julian Edelman I like every single week. Sony Michel, the Steelers defense is a better run defense than it is pass defense, but I still think Sony Michel could score a touchdown because he's just got that, availability every week to score a touchdown on this offense. This offense produces running back touchdowns. So, I definitely like that. And for me, that's about it.
Yeah, these games tend to go pretty high. So, get them all in there. Sony, James White, Gordon, Edelman, Brady, all the names you guys touched on. Start them. You got them. Start them up and enjoy the game because I think it's going to be, you're probably going to be 31-34 type game.
Definitely. Broncos Raiders. Oh, you want to say something, Kev?
Oh no, I mean it pretty much touched on everything. I do want to say I'm interested to see who the Steelers use as their number 2 the most, because I'm really excited about James Washington after watching him in the preseason. So that's one thing I'm interested to see in this game is who the Steelers number 2 is, because like Green Bay, to me in that offense, the number 2 receiver is going to be very fantasy relevant. So I want to see who it is.
Yeah, and the Patriots also have a good, second corner in slot corner in CJ Jackson. So he, is probably going to see a whole lot of, Washington. So, I think they're going to be moving them all over the place. So I definitely think that the Patriots cornerbacks are very, very good. So it will be interesting to see what happens with that. We're going to skip the Texans Saints, leave them for last, and go Broncos Raiders. So for the Broncos and Raiders, for me, Philip Lindsay is viable in this game. The Raiders defense, until they show me that they've gotten better, I'm not going to believe it. So I want to see, Emmanuel Sanders is like one of my, start him if you got him plays of the week. I love Emmanuel Sanders in this game. He's going up against LaMarcus Joyner. LaMarcus Joyner played 83% of his snaps in the slot last year. He is their safety. He's the Raiders' safety, but he plays a lot in the slot. Instead of bringing an extra nickel corner, they put him in the slot to defend that guy. And Emmanuel Sanders is just too damn quick for any safety in the league. So, I think LaMarcus Joyner is a very good player. He's just not fast enough to keep up with Emmanuel Sanders. So I could see Emmanuel Sanders getting a bunch of targets tomorrow and actually having a good game. Last year, they only played the Raiders once because he got hurt in Week 13. They played them in Week 17 to end the season. So, but in that first game, he had 4 catches for 96 yards. And I just, and they didn't target him in the first half. He didn't get a target in the first half. So in the second half, he had 4 catches for 96 yards. If they target him all game long, the dude could go over 100 and be great. And then for other players on the Broncos, I think Sutton could be okay. I think that the Broncos defense is 100% a defense that I'm playing this week. And, Philip Lindsay is the running back that I want in that game. For the Broncos, on the Raiders side of the ball, I am definitely starting Antonio Brown. You know what I mean? Antonio Brown is one of the best receivers in the game. I'm starting him. I actually wouldn't mind starting Carr in this game because I do think I know, right? I'm bringing it way back. I seen Broncos, dog. It just hit me. But Carr in this game, I think he could actually be good if Antonio Brown plays, and that's what it seems like is going to happen. I think he could throw 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game, especially because Antonio Brown is going to eat. They're going to want to feed him the ball, and so I'm starting him. I'm starting Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs. I can't even speak right now. And that's about it for me.
Yeah, I think you're starting AB. You're starting Josh Jacobs. Those are probably the only 2 guys I'm starting from the Oakland side of the ball. I do want to see what Darren Waller has because, he's gotten a lot of hype in the preseason. And from the Broncos, Philip Lindsay and Emmanuel Sanders are the only 2 guys I'd be starting.
What do you guys what do you think about Royce Freeman? I mean, this Raiders defense is not good. So I think there's enough room for both of them to eat on this game.
I'm sorry, say that again. I missed what you said.
Freeman, would you stay away from Freeman on this one? Because that Broncos that Raiders defense is real rough.
No, I think
I'm probably not starting Freeman. You probably have better options. I mean, this is week 1. There's no bye weeks or anything like that. Um, he didn't really look good in the preseason either. So to me, he's just more of a kind of a wait and see, and see how they use them, how they use those backs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if you absolutely need a running back, like let's say you drafted Melvin Gordon and you took Royce Freeman later, and you needed to start someone this week. I don't think Royce Freeman is going to absolutely kill you. He's not going to give you a 0, but he's not going to get you any more than 6 to 8. I don't see. If they use him a little bit in the passing game, which they did a little bit last year, I think he can get you 8 points. Maybe 10. So he's not going to kill you, but not somebody that I'm actively trying to start either. All right. So the last game, for me, the game of the week. This is the game that I am very happy that they put on Monday night because I think this game is going to be so much fun to watch. Texans Saints. I'll actually let you start it off, Kev, and we'll talk about this game. And Dan, you can give your analysis after, and this game I want to spend like 10 minutes on, then we'll be in an hour 30.
All right. So to me, this game is, like you said, it's going to be a great game to watch. 2 high-flying offenses, probably a ton of fantasy points in this game. You're obviously starting Watson and Breeze because you probably drafted both of those guys to be starters. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, both guys that, you're starting obviously every week. They're both first-round picks. Latavius Murray is a guy that could be an interesting flex play because, if he gets Mark Ingram's workload, and this is something that I've been kind of looking at over the past, week or so, if he does happen to take over that workload, that guy, Latavius Murray, could have been a steal in these drafts because Mark Ingram was suspended for 3-4 games, I think, last year and still was a 4th-round pick. Latavius Murray, you're getting in the 7th round. So if he's putting up similar numbers to Mark Ingram, he was a steal. And from the Texans side of the ball, like I said, you're obviously starting Watson. You're obviously starting Hopkins. Will Fuller is probably a sneaky flex play in this game. From the running back side, many people drafted Duke Johnson to be an RB2 or a flex, so you're probably throwing him in there as well. And I'm interested to see how they use that situation there. I seen Bill O'Brien today said that he sees Carlos Hyde kind of as a first and second down back. So I don't know if he's going to throw him in there that quick, but this running back core is going to be something I want to see how they use. And yeah, we have to see what happens with Kiki Kuti because right now we don't know if he's going to be available. But I think in this game, this could be a shootout Monday night game, prime time. This is going to be a great one, and definitely should have been the Thursday night game to start off the season because it would have been a little bit more exciting than what we saw last night.
You are not lying. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I think we have to do the Jags and KC game too. We didn't hit that one.
Oh, we didn't?
Oh, we sure didn't.
Oh, yeah, we didn't. Oh, okay. Go ahead. We will hit that next.
Yeah, as far as this game, I agree. I think you're going to see some fireworks. It's every time you have primetime games in the Dome, there's normally high scoring, and it's exactly what I expect to see out of these two, powerful offenses. I really like I'm curious to see Latavius Murray if he does pick up that role that Ingram had. I'm curious to see how this Texans offense looks that we've been talking about with their receiving corp and Deshaun Watson's maturity. Basically, is this an MVP type season for him because he's everyone is just so high on him this year, including us. So I mean, I'm really curious to see. They're a 7-point underdog, and that's saying a lot because this a lot of people have the Texans to win the division. So it also says a lot about the Saints and how dominant they are going to be. But I don't think there's any guys that you didn't touch on, Kev, that I have to mention. I think all the with the exception of waiting on Kiki QT probably for another week or so for his injury to heal, I wouldn't throw him right in there. But other than that, Will Fuller definitely flex. I'm starting I'm definitely going to start Duke Johnson because I think he's going to get pretty good amount of workload. He's going to get a lot of passing downs. Stay away from Carlos Hyde until you hear anything more about, or wait and see what kind of workload that he gets. And you're starting Deshaun for sure.
Yep, Drew Brees at home is a beast. I'll just do the Saints first. Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. I love both of them this week. Michael Thomas is going to be going head-to-head with Bradley Roby. Bradley Roby is garbage. I mean, it is what it is. I call it how I see it. So I explained that in the cornerback wide receiver matchups. You can read that. But yeah, he's straight hot trash. Cook, I love I love in this game. I think he is going to be heavily targeted as the number 2 target on this team. Well, obviously number 3 target behind Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a very big game tomorrow. I'm basically starting Monday, starting all of these guys that are startable on the Saints. There's not really too many guys that I would start. Traquan Smith and all those guys. You got to show me first before I'm willing to start those kinds of guys. So I'm going to stay away from those guys on the Saints. But even Latavius Murray, I don't know if I'm going to start him. The Texans defense is very good at stopping the run. So, Alvin Kamara, I like him because, he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield and, he's very elusive and can get it going. But on the Texans side of the ball, I love the Texans. Watson is my number 1 quarterback of the week. The reason he is because I do believe they're going to be trailing in this game. And in games that he has trailed since he's been in the NFL, I believe the number is 7.6 more fantasy points per game on games that they are behind. So if that is the case, and he's going to score, 7.6 more fantasy points than his normal average is, that's awesome. And he could definitely finish the number 1 quarterback of the week. Kiki QT, Dan just mentioned, another guy that I'm not scared to, start in this game. I think he, has a good matchup this week. Will Fuller has said again.
If he's healthy.
If he's healthy, yes. If he's playing, definitely I wouldn't mind, in my slot or in my flex position, I wouldn't mind putting him in. Will Fuller has one of my favorite matchups of the week, Eli Apple. Eli Apple, I think, is one of the most overrated corners to ever come into the NFL, and he did absolutely really nothing with the Giants. And then last year, he was a liability for the Saints almost all year long. So not a matchup that I'm scared of, especially because Will Fuller can take the top off of any defense. And then, the best wide receiver in fantasy football, DeAndre Hopkins, is going to do his thing tomorrow. I don't care that DeMarcus,
Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore is covering him at all. It's not a matchup I'm scared of. I don't care. So yeah, and then Duke Johnson is the last guy I'm gonna hit on. Duke, against the Saints, I think he's gonna catch a lot of balls, and if they give him 10 carries, he could be really good tomorrow. So start Duke if you got him. And, watch the fireworks in this game. It's going to be a very fun game to watch. So, let's go back and do the Chiefs-Jaguars. To me, this is going to be really fast.
Yeah.
To me, you're starting D.D. Westbrook and Leonard Fournette. That's it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? On the Jags. That's it. You're not starting the Jags defense. If you drafted the Jags defense, we told you guys don't draft defenses early because I'm sure people who drafted the Jags didn't look at that they were playing the Chiefs week 1. You could have gotten the Jags in week 16 or around 16 if you would have just waited on defense, but you probably took them in round 12 and now you feel stupid because, you almost can't start them, Yeah. Week 1. But anyway, on the Chiefs side of the ball, I'm not scared of this matchup. I think the Chiefs offense with Andy Reid operating it, Andy Reid given an exponential amount of time to look over a defense and find holes in it. He does that every time. He is one of the greatest coaches of all time after bye weeks, and it's because he can pick apart a defense. So week 1, going against the Jaguars, not a matchup I'm scared of. I think Andy Reid is going to pick this defense apart, and I do like everyone that you would normally start on the Chiefs. Minus what is his name? Sammy Watkins. I would
Sammy
not. Yeah, I would not start Sammy Watkins. I think AJ Boye is going to be a good job of taking Sammy away, and I don't think Andy Reid is going to put Sammy in places to win a whole lot of those matchups. I think he's just going to let AJ take him away, and that's it. So I'm not scared of this matchup. I like everybody that I normally would like on the Chiefs. Damian Williams is definitely a guy I'm starting. I know people are worried about Damian because of the signing of LaShawn McCoy, but LaShawn McCoy came in there a week ago. Damian's still going to get his normal workload that he was going to get. I would start worrying about that, next week or the week after. But, yeah, start them all.
I agree. Start everybody that you would normally start in this game. I'm not as high on Tyreek Hill, but I do think he's still he's Tyreek Hill. You drafted him in the first or second round, so you have to start him. Travis Kelce, obviously, you're starting. He's the number one tight end most weeks. Mahomes, number one quarterback. Damian Williams, I agree. Andy Reid always finds a way to get his running backs, involved in always create success from that position. And from the Jags side, Dede and Leonard Fournette are the only guys you're starting. I would definitely start Dede Westbrook if I had him. I don't know. In most cases, you probably drafted him a little later, so he's either going to be your flex. He's probably your flex, but I think this week they're going to have to throw to catch up and stay in the game. And Dede Westbrook is the guy that I want because he was targeted so much in that preseason game, and if that's what is to come, Dede Westbrook could have a very successful fantasy season.
Yeah, pretty much nothing really to add except, Jags defense is going to be very, very good this year. You're going to have a lot of success with them. This is one week that you're going to have to do in early streaming because you do not want to start the Jags against this powerhouse of an offense. So that's about it.
Yep.
All right, guys. So that pretty much wraps up our week 1 podcast. Tomorrow, Steve and I will be getting on to do a daily fantasy podcast to go over some of our favorite DFS lineups and, kind of go over, different, whether it's 50-50s, whether, kind of, what are they? Big, the
tournaments.
Tournaments. Yeah, big tournament plays that we like, kind of guys that are a little cheaper that might go off. So we'll talk about that tomorrow on the DFS lineup. And don't forget to check us out on our website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com for a bunch of content, articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our VIP access. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace.
See you guys.